Sometimes, silence is the most powerful response you can offer. We live in a world that constantly urges us to speak, to explain ourselves, to defend our choices, to react to every little thing. Social media tells us to comment. Conversations pressure us to reply. But the wisest minds throughout history knew a truth we often forget. Real strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's completely silent. There are moments when saying nothing speaks volumes. Times when words only escalate. Conflict weaken your position or exhaust your emotional energy. And in those moments, silence isn't a passive act, it's a conscious, disciplined choice. If you truly want to take control over your emotions, your relationships, and your life, you must learn to master the art of saying less, or better yet, saying nothing at all. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 6 key situations where keeping quiet is the smartest move you can make. These aren't just social tricks, they're strategies that build unshakable confidence, emotional resilience, and a quiet kind of power that earns respect without ever demanding it. So if you're ready to stop wasting your energy on pointless reactions and start becoming the kind of person others listen to, even when you're silent, keep watching. Let's begin. Number 1. When you're angry, anger is deceptive. It disguises itself as power, urgency, and righteousness. But what it really does is hijack your judgment. Think about it. When you're angry, your voice rises, your muscles tighten, and you feel this burning need to respond, to lash out, to prove your point, to win the argument. But what happens next? Almost every time, you say something you regret. Words spoken in anger are often the sharpest and the hardest to take back. One heated moment can damage relationships, ruin trust, or cost you respect that took years to build. A Stoic understands this. Anger isn't something to obey, it's a test. And passing that test means resisting the urge to speak when emotions are high. Instead, breathe. Count to 10 if needed. Walk away and return when you're calm. Speak only when your thoughts are clear and your heart is steady. That's silent, strategic, powerful, and intentional signals true self-control. People will start to see you differently. They'll recognize you as someone who isn't easily shaken, who doesn't need to shout to be heard. And most importantly, you'll avoid the regret that comes from words spoken in the heat of the moment. Silence isn't weakness, it's discipline, it's strength. Number 2. When others are gossiping, gossip often enters the room like a whisper, dressed as entertainment or harmless chat. But don't be fooled, it's poison wrapped in small talk. The moment you join in, you become a participant in something that can easily turn back on you. Because here's the truth, if someone gossips to you, they'll likely gossip about you. Stoic avoids this trap completely. Why? Because small minds talk about people, but great minds, Stoic minds, talk about ideas, growth, and purpose. When you engage in gossip, even with just a laugh or a small comment, you lower yourself to a level of conversation that adds nothing to your character or your life. And eventually, you lose respect both from others and from yourself. The best response? Absolute silence. Not a smirk, not a nod, just silence. Let your lack of participation speak for your integrity. And speaking of silence as a form of power, there's another situation where saying nothing speaks louder than anything you could possibly say. Let's talk about that next. And speaking of silence as a form of power, there's another situation where staying quiet speaks volumes. Number 2. Continued. When others speak negatively about someone, when people around you start tearing others down, whether through subtle jabs or open criticism, don't take the bait. You don't have to defend anyone. You don't have to challenge them. And most importantly, you don't have to join in. Simply say nothing. Or better yet, steer the conversation towards something more meaningful. Over time, people will begin to notice something different about you. They'll see that you're not the type to indulge in gossip, that you're not quick to judge or speak poorly of others behind their backs. And because of that, they'll trust you more deeply. Because someone who doesn't speak ill of others is someone they know won't speak ill of them either. Gossip is like a wildfire, it spreads fast and burns reputations. But remember this, your words are the fuel. The less you give it, the faster it dies out. Silence, in this case, is not only wise, it's powerful. Number 3. When you're being criticized unfairly, not all criticism is created equal. Some feedback is a gift. It challenges you to grow, improve, and view things from a fresh perspective. But other criticism, it's venom disguised as advice. It comes from jealousy, insecurity, or a deep need to tear others down just to feel taller. And when you're on the receiving end of this kind of attack, your first instinct may be to defend yourself, to explain, to fight back. But here's the trap. The more you react, the more power you give them. A Stoic doesn't fall into that trap. He knows that silence often speaks louder than any counter-argument. Let them criticize. Let them talk, say nothing. Let them tire themselves out trying to get a rise out of you. Without your reaction, their words lose momentum. They fall flat. Eventually, the truth surfaces. The people who matter, those with eyes to see, will recognize the difference between valid feedback and baseless attacks. And by staying silent, you show that you're above petty conflict. You don't stoop to every challenge, because some battles just aren't worth your time. Number 4, when you have nothing meaningful to say. Have you noticed how uncomfortable people are with silence? In most conversations, the moment there's a pause, someone rushes to fill it with words that often add nothing. Noise for the sake of noise. But a Stoic understands that words should serve a purpose, not just fill the air. When you speak constantly without thought, your words begin to lose their weight. People tune you out. But when you choose silence, when you speak only after thinking carefully, your words begin to matter. People lean in, they listen. Use silence to listen more, observe more, and reflect more. Speak less, but say more. Because when you finally open your mouth, what you say will land. It will carry weight, and people will know if you're speaking. It's worth hearing. In a world full of noise, it's the quiet voice that gets noticed. Number 5, when someone wants to argue just to argue. Some people aren't looking for understanding. They don't want a real conversation. They want conflict, victory, to win. They'll twist your words, ignore logic, and no matter what you say, they'll find a way to keep the fire going. Engaging with these people is a trap. It drains your energy, wastes your time, and rarely ends with clarity. So what's the best way to win? Don't play the game. Say nothing. Walk away. Let them argue with the air. A Stoic knows that not every invitation deserves a response, and not every battle is worth your sword. Silence, in this case, isn't avoidance, it's strategy. It frustrates those who thrive on conflict, because when you don't feed the fire, it dies. Just like gossip, just like anger. And finally, there's one more situation where silence isn't just wise, it's transformative. It has to do with your inner philosophy, your values, and how you carry yourself. Let's explore that next. Number 6, when you're listening to learn. In most conversations, people aren't really listening, they're just waiting for their turn to speak. You've probably seen it. Someone nods along, but their eyes are somewhere else. They're already crafting a reply in their head before you've even finished your sentence. And that's why so many conversations feel hollow, because instead of truly connecting, we're performing, competing to be heard. But a Stoic takes a different path. He knows that listening is more powerful than speaking. When you remain silent, not to shut out, but to tune in, you begin to notice things others overlook. You catch the subtle changes in tone, the shifts in body language, the emotion behind the words. You even start to pick up on what's not being said, the hesitations, the silence between the sentences. That's where the real meaning often lives. True listening is an act of humility. It says, what you're saying matters more right now than what I want to say. And ironically, the less you talk, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more your words carry weight when you do choose to speak. Because people notice. They notice that when you speak, it's not noise, it's signal. It's clear, measured, and grounded in understanding. In a world where everyone is shouting over each other, the person who listens stands out. They're the one others trust, admire, and remember. Master these 6 moments of silence. When you stay silent in the right moments, when you're angry, when others gossip, when you're unfairly criticized, when there's nothing meaningful to say, when someone wants to argue for no reason, and when you're listening to learn, you begin to take back control. Control over your energy, your emotions, your time. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop wasting words on people who don't deserve them. and you stop leaking power just to feel heard. Instead, you begin to embody calm, discipline, presence. You become the kind of man who doesn't need to shout to command respect, the kind of man who chooses his words like a blade only when necessary and with precision. So next time you feel the urge to speak, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is silence the better choice? What about you? Have you ever been in a situation where silence gave you the upper hand, where saying nothing spoke louder than anything you could have said? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. And if this video helped you shift your mindset, make sure to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a Stoic insight. Because when you master the art of silence, you don't just gain control over your words, you gain control over yourself.